What do we need to know about the global energies from this eclipse season to the next eclipse season? Welcome to Trevor's Tarot Astrology and Spirituality. First off, a huge thank you to everybody who's subscribed to the channel. Thank you for liking, watching, commenting on the videos, sharing the videos, promoting the channel on your own social media channels. And if you've given money to the channel, a huge, huge thank you. So we just had the lunar eclipse on the 7th or the 8th, depending upon where you were in the world, of September. We have a solar eclipse coming up, a partial solar eclipse coming up on the 21st of September. And then come February 17th of 2026, we have a solar eclipse on February 17th, 2026. It's an annual solar eclipse, which means the moon is going to look just a little bit too small to cover the entire sun. So it's sometimes called the ring of fire type of eclipse. And then on March 2nd of 2026, we have another lunar eclipse. So sometimes the between the eclipses can be pretty telling. I did a reading on this is one of the first videos I posted on this channel, and it was pretty predictive. It was pretty spot on. So we're going to look at the months of September, October, November, December, January, and February. We'll include that first couple weeks of March in with February, and we'll include just this part of September. Although there might be energies that we don't know about that come to surface later, right? Eclipses and astrological events, they don't happen right on the time of the events, they happen around them. For eclipses, it can particularly be, several months before these things come to fruition. So I would like to do that. So uh this is the Light Seers Tarot. I have several of these decks over the years because they don't really like the humidity. So, and this deck, these are just major arcana. So there's just going to be major arcanas coming out. So we'll pull six cards, one for September, one for October, November, December, January, and February. And we'll take those as the big themes. The Chariot card, things are going to be moving, that's for sure. Lots of changes. I feel that very deeply. I think they're positive changes. I know there are some that are saying there's negative changes, like doom and gloom type stuff. I just don't personally see that. I could be wrong. Um, but I think things are gonna make a change. Do they improve? I think that's a matter of perspective. Do they devolve? Again, I think it's a matter of perspective. But I don't see anything really horrible happening, and I don't see anything but improvement in the sense of when it comes to tackling things like corruption for the world and um, global leaders being more responsive to the people in their respective countries. Now, this doesn't include certain countries, obviously, that um, just don't operate that way. But, I do see progress in Europe and Australia and parts of Asia and in the United States in the sense of things becoming more predictable and nothing else, just more predictable. But that in itself, I think, is progress. So let's see what we get for these months. Okay. Okay, so again, these are just major arcana. So every card that comes out is going to be a major arcana. Okay, so for September, what's the big theme? It's the sun. I mean, the sun and the moon, of course, have to interact for the eclipses to happen. And, I do think that there's some major revelations coming about. I think this has been in the news in the United States, especially when it comes to rich, powerful people and their treatment of young girls and women. I think these revelations will continue. I don't think this is the end of it. I think it's just the beginning of it. Um, and then we get justice. I really like that in October. Things sort of coming back into balance. People's that are having their voice having an I can't speak today, but people whose voice seems more important than other people's, that stops a little bit. Like it comes back in balance. Yes, rich and powerful people always have bigger voices than those of us that, live day to day, but it does feel like that like lessens a little bit. Of course, we're working up in October towards voting in the United States in November. So I think that's part of it as well. But I do think things feel more balanced in October, and I've sensed this for a while. I think, you know, I just do. I think that's what's going on. And we get the Sun card again in November. Um, more illumination, more revelations, um, the truth really coming about. Uh, it's a good feeling. It's, parts of it are going to be super uncomfortable because the truth is worse than you can possibly imagine on some of these fronts. But the truth is always good. It exposes the dark corners of the world, and I think that's what's going to happen. We get the moon card. I like that as well. The sun and the moon, we're talking about eclipses. Those, of course, have to interact for an eclipse. Um, this is in December, things coming to the surface, more revelations, if you want. People also emerging that have a more reasonable tone to their voice in the world. Not necessarily in the United States. The United States is kind of an enigma right now, but in the world, I think we'll start to hear more reasonable sounding people. In the United States, we might start to, in December, hear Democrats that want to run for president in 2028 start to announce, because the election cycles in the US are insanely long. So that could be part of it as well. We get the Empress card in January. I like that. The Empress card is about nurturing, fertility, rebirths in a sense, beginnings. Uh, so the new year is going to come in a nurturing type of way. So I think 2026 will be quite um, a healthy a healthy year in terms of self-care for a lot of us. We might have to tune out the noise, but it's going to be a very nurturing type of year. That doesn't mean everything's perfect, doesn't mean everything's, roses. It just means that overall it's there. In February, with the second eclipse season starting in February and into the first part of the March, we get the Devil card. This doesn't surprise me at all. Devil card's about toxicity, mis and disinformation. Eclipses do cloud things, so it can take a while for things to really surface into the truth, as we can kind of see here with the sun cards in November. Uh, but I think the eclipses kind of put a stamp on this. Like it's kind of like this energy is not tolerable anymore, is what it feels like. Now we'll pull clarifications for all the 6 months here. Underneath we have justice again. So I do think, the world becomes more and more balanced as we proceed through the years. I know a lot of people disagree with me, and you're welcome to disagree with me. Um, but I have a pretty decent track record. Okay, so what do we need to know for the September as far as eclipse to eclipse? I'm just going to pull 3 cards, I think, for each month. More if I feel the need. Uh, September, definitely see the death card. It feels like there's an ending and a beginning here. Um, what do we need to know for September? Yeah, we get the Two of Wands. It's really a crossroads type of month. And I think we can feel that. I think that's why there's a hard time sleeping. I think that's why there's some anxiety. I think that's why we go from feeling good to feeling like feeling anxious to not feeling anxious to feeling anxious to not anxious to worried to hopeful. And it's like this contradictory type of emotion that just exists in this month. It can be quite confusing, but it seems to be pretty on point. And we get the full card as well. I like that. It really is the start of something new. And I think that's the reason that we have this hopeful feeling. And it's also the reason why we have this anxious feeling, because newness is anxiety sometimes, but it's also hope. Not seeing the future is the most complicated part about this time period. Not in the sense of, divination or anything like that. It's like we almost can't picture the future. Like it's really hard to imagine life 6 months from now. It's just hard. And I think that's a lot of this contradictory feelings too that go with September. Now I think we come out of that as well. But we get the Five of Swords too, being wounded in battle. I mean, that's just the truth. We have gone through a lot, and particularly if you're in the United States, but also around the world with Gaza and in Ukraine, uh, and um, mass casualty events as well with these plane crashes this year and other horrific things that have happened. We've gone through a lot. And I think that's the reason why we're scared to be hopeful. I think that's why it's easier to sell fear than hope right now. Uh, it just is. It just is. So there'll be the people selling fear, there'll be the people selling hope. Um, I'm not trying to convince you either way. I think there's a lot to be hopeful for here. I do think that we've been through a lot, but I do feel like September's a big turning point. It might not um, come to pass in the sense of noticeable changes until we get to around November. But it is a turning point. Things have changed, they've shifted slightly. We have the Wheel of Fortune. It's exactly right underneath. Uh, you know, we're uncertain of where we're going, but we know we're going somewhere. We're headed somewhere. We're just uncertain of where it is. And we get the Four of Cups. This is my card for the people. The people are feeling it. And the Two of Cups, this is new partnerships, possible romances as well. There's some excitement in the air as we move to the fall. Of course, there's a lot of new births in September as well. And I think that's why the Empress card is here. It's about fertility. I think September is, I could be wrong about that, but I thought I read that one time that September is the month with the highest births out of the 12 months. Um, okay. So September, we're hopeful that there's a newness. We feel the newness, but we don't realize the newness. So therefore, there's anxiety around it. But being close to people that we know and trust is going to help us get through that. The Three of Cups, circles of support, of course, people that we're close to. Okay, so what about October here? What do we need to know about October? We need to know about October. Yeah, this has some periods of uncertainty for sure. We get the Two of Pentacles, juggling things, foreign travel perhaps, foreign travel issues, foreign trade issues. Um, it's like the opposite of the Justice card. It's a lot of juggling versus the Justice card being balanced. Let me pull a couple more cards here. That one was kind of popped out. This feels right. We get the Six of Swords. I think we start to realize that we are moving forward. Um, yeah, it's there's a lot on our plate still. Absolutely. The energies are not easy, but we're starting to feel that forward movement. Um, there are a lot of retrograde planets right now, and there will be for a while. So, that forward movement might not be realized yet, but we know it's coming. Like it's an intuitive feel. It's a hopeful feel, again. And then we get the Hermit card as well. We might feel the need to be really introspective in the month of October because there's going to be some big events. It's just what it feels like. I could be wrong, but these big events are going to cause us to spend time with the people that we're really close with and to also spend time by ourselves, really thinking things through. I definitely see a lot of people taking walks, um, long walks. Uh, Whatever's considered long to you. There are some people here with mobility issues, so a long walk might just be to the backyard, but it's still a walk nonetheless. And it's breathing in the fresh air and getting outside and enjoying the fall colors if you're in the northern hemisphere, and enjoying the beginnings of spring if you're in the southern hemisphere. It's it's a it's a really wholesome feeling. It's a feeling that the seasons are changing the way the seasons always change. There's that consistency to the planet revolving around the sun. And with that comes this like innate knowing that things are going to kind of work out. They might not work out the way we want them, but they're going to work out in the sense that everything is going to be fine. Towards the end of the month, I do think things pick up with the Eight of Wands. Things might feel really busy towards the end of the month as we, celebrate Halloween, and then we're moving into, the November holiday season as well. And I think Diwali's actually in October this month or this year as well. So if you're of that persuasion, um, that makes things move faster. Just celebrations that will be underneath. Here's the death card I was seeing earlier. It really is a rebirth uh, coming. So now this might be a physical death of a world leader as well, but with that comes the rebirth. So it won't be somebody that's missed, not on a wide scale. Um, so that makes a lot of sense to me. Okay, what about I guess we're into November, the sun card here. So yeah, November's a happy time. Doesn't mean geopolitically it's happy, but on a personal levels, it feels like people are fairly happy. It feels like people are really um, exchanging recipes for the Thanksgiving holiday in the United States, and like old recipes, like maybe things that don't cost as much money, because there is a little bit of economic worry that is just prevalent throughout these 6 months. I don't think the stock market crashes. I don't think anything like that happens, but um, there's an economic worry nonetheless throughout the world in these 6 months. I think celebrations in November, um, taking in the cooler air. I don't think it'll be particularly cold in November. I think it'll be quite pleasant. So I still think we're basking in the sun, although there's less sunlight as we turn back the clocks in the US and in Canada, or at least in most places in the US and Canada. Let's see. What did we get for November? We need to know for November. It feels like a good reprieve. Definitely feel tight shoulders and like a tenseness, but I think that is because things have let up emotionally, and like the stress level has quieted down. And usually those aches and pains are from when your muscles relax, so it's actually a good sign. Um, Definitely some economic worries here and food insecurity, but people help each other. It's definitely one of those type of things. With the Seven of Cups, we're almost not really sure what to think. Like we want to be happy, but we're kind of convinced we shouldn't be. So therefore, we either will or we won't. But even if we do, we're going to question, should we? And if we don't, we're going to question, should we? So a little bit of a confusing emotion, similar to September in that sense. But we get the strength card here. I think the resilience of humanity tends to shine through after a bunch of tribulation. And I think that's why the strength card is here. And it's a gentle strength, right? She's caressing the lion. She's not scared of the lion. Now the lion isn't necessarily supposed to be her enemy, but I do think that the world steps up and geopolitically starts learning how to deal with people that are causing problems. And we get the Queen of Swords, logic, consistency, truth will start to be valued again, where I think we've kind of gone through a period where it's not. And then we get the moon card again, things being revealed, which goes along with the sun and with the eclipses. Not really particularly surprised that the moon and the sun keep popping up. So, yeah, I think November's, a bunch of revelations that are positive in nature, but also sad. It's positive that they're being revealed. It's sad. Some of the things that are revealed have sadness to them. And we get justice again as well. So I do think some of the perpetrators of some of these horrors do meet their maker, perhaps, or yeah, the emperor, abuse of power, leadership. Wouldn't be surprised if another world leader falls around this time as well. Not in an unstable way, like not toppled, like not governments being toppled, nothing like that. Just naturally either being ousted by the electoral process or courts or passing on. So I think I'm gonna see what's underneath here for November. Yeah, death again. I'm not surprised at all. I think yeah, we might see another death in November of a world leader. Um, I mean, there are three or four that are on my mind that could go at any time. So, um, right, what about December and this moon card? Why is this moon card here for December? Revelations, um, the Two of Pentacles. Yeah, I feel like we kind of feel in December like we're having a hard time keeping our heads above water financially. This might correspond with the Christmas season and the parts of the world that are celebrating Christmas. Just like Christmas is going to be smaller than perhaps it was in previous years, but it's all gonna be okay. This card wants to come out as well. The Page of Cups, bombshells and surprises. I'm sorry, the Knight of Cups. The emotional messages, gatherings, family gatherings. This makes sense. Do you think there's going to be a real emphasis on really tight connections around this time as we get ready to go into the new year? Uh, it feels pretty healthy. Um, it's like a kind of another deep breath. It feels pretty good. Um, and we get the world card. The cycle's completing. Of course, the year's going to come to the end. So that's one of the big cycles that are completed. But also a lot of this autocracy and abuse of power just kind of isn't tolerated anymore from other world leaders. Like other world leaders step up to the world leaders that are, you know, not doing what they're supposed to be doing. Uh, and we get the King of Pentacles. Yeah, greed and our value system has already shifted this summer. You can see it in the way people are spending money. So greed, I think, is we get fiery new leadership. So uh Yeah, and a new world leader coming about in December. This could be because of the death in November, but it could be because of an election happening. I feel like that's probably in Israel. Um, or it's about to happen later in 26. And we get the strength card again, this quiet resolve of the people. Um, yeah, there's a quiet resolve that kind of gets us through the rest of 2025. Okay, so January of 26, and we get the Empress card to define January. I think that makes a lot of sense. It's a new beginning. It's a rebirth of sorts. It's we all make new resolutions. We think about this as like being a big day in the events of the year, even though really it's just another day. But we place importance upon the end of the year and the beginning of the new. Definitely some Three of Cups type of energy, circles of support, celebration. I feel like there's still some economic worry, but it's lessening slightly. I think Christmas was pretty small for a lot of people that celebrate. People didn't go into debt as much as they usually do. Okay. Yes, economic stability, the Four of Pentacles. People know that they need to be watching their money. Now, whether that's reality or not is a completely different story, but that's what the energies feel like. It feels like we need to be watching our money and our spending habits. So I think that'll be on the forefront. There's going to be a lot of anxiety. And you might say, well, January's joyful, but no, the New Year's anxious for a lot of people. It just really is because there's a newness to it. Um, so I think that makes a lot of sense. And we get the Three of Swords. There's a betrayal here, but it's in the past, is what it feels like. It feels like, January's kind of a reflecting back on 2025 and all the horrors that we went through and some of the anniversaries that are coming around for people that are really painful. Like January 20th in the United States, I think is a painful day um, for a lot of people. And the Ten of Swords, the end of a dark cycle, complete and utter downfall. The cycle is ending, and it's like we don't want to believe it, is what it feels like. It's like almost like a stubbornness to the month. Yeah, we just don't want to believe it, the Seven of Cups and the Queen of Swords. But that's the truth of the matter, and there's going to be consistency to show that we're ready to move on. And then we start running with the Knight of Wands. So difficult. I think it's a difficult month emotionally. Underneath, yeah, we have the Tower card underneath. It's possible there's a big event too that happens in January that I'll keep my eye out on that. It's possible that there really is some heartache and anxiety for good reasons. Maybe it's the weather, maybe there's earthquake, that type of a volcano, perhaps even that type of event that shakes us a little bit. But again, the strength card is still kind of coming through. So there's a resolve there. Now we move into the devil energy of February. Now, I think this is because of the eclipses, but let's throw some cards and see. Um, I think the Ring of Fire eclipse on the 17th of February, in particular, the solar eclipse, that brings about some really big changes. Maybe not immediately, but we'll sense them. And I think that can be a very anxiousy feeling as well. But we have everything that we need, the Nine of Pentacles, to get through it. And um, yeah, I mean, we know, like, there's a knowing that we're heading towards the right spot. And I think by the summer of 2026, things aren't back to normal per se, but the new normal is a comfortable normal. It's nothing nearly as bad as what people have that people have thought was going to happen. It's not going to be that bad. Um, the greed, the deceit, the deception, I feel like it's being dealt with in February. I think that's why the Devil card is here in the Seven of Swords. I don't think it's the big energy that's like overtaking the month. I think it's just on our minds because we're dealing with it, and this is a good thing. A lot of people are gonna, just have this feeling of like, yeah, we knew all that was happening, but the truth comes out, the Ace of Swords at the end of the day. So, uh, it does feel pretty good. And then we get the Hanged Man. Now it takes a while for justice to happen. It just does. So it's not like the events that are taking care of this corruption and deception lead to immediate consequences for the people that are doing them. It takes a little while, but I do think that we do move beyond this energy into something slightly uh, more hopeful. So let's just throw a few animal oracle cards to kind of sum up the month. So let's do one for September. So for September, we get the Badger spirit, be fearless and bold. We have to be. It's just a tough month. The energies are all over the place. Then we get the Wolf spirit for October, turn knowledge into wisdom. I think that fits perfect with the Justice card. And then the Starfish, open to the infinite possibilities in November. That was a tricky one. We want to be, but we're going to fight it. We want to be open to the idea that things are getting better, but we're going to not trust it. And then we get the Moth spirit in December. I like this surrendering type of energy, this really working with what we have. And then January is a lucky time with the Rabbit. And I'm curious for February, we get the Sandpiper, be playful. Things are already in motion in February, and it's not like we as individuals are going to be able to influence the big things that are in motion. So February is going to be uncomfortable, but it's for the greater good for sure. Corruption, all these things, they start to like kind of be dealt with in a way that they've never been dealt with in the past. Now, I'm not saying things are perfect because that does not happen, but uh, yeah, I think it's going to be a good 6 months, a lot of growth for the world. But growth, of course, is painful at times. So, all right, I'll be back with another video soon.